Hi, welcome back to Beautifully Chaotic. I'm Yesha. It's the 27th of December, which means we are approaching year end, and I'm so happy that the year is ending. It was a mess. This year was an absolute shit show. I don't want anything remotely close to how this year has gone by to ever happen to me or anyone that I know of. I don't know why 2025 was so difficult, not just for me. I've been seeing a lot of Instagram reels and people just telling me how 2025 really like kicked their ass, and I'm just thinking, one sec, what's wrong? What's the matter? And a lot of like, I don't believe in astrology or tarot, but my mom obsessive about astrology and tarot. She told me that this year had some massive like planetary changes, and that's why it was very heavy on some people emotionally, mentally, financially as well. But I was not expecting this year to be this difficult. Like every year, I think, okay, this is the worst. Like I've hit rock bottom, and then every year, I go. There's something below rock bottom that I'm reaching every year, and I hope it does not happen in 2026. I really hope not, because 2023 I thought, okay, this is the worst I've ever felt, and then 2024 happened, and I was like, shit, this is actually the worst. And then 2025 happened, and I'm like, dude, this if this is rock bottom, I hope it stops here, because I can't go anything beneath this, anything below this. This is like the worst of worst. But anyway, a lot of positive things also happen, or maybe it's just my attitude. Like when something very negative happens, you obviously have to cope with the anxiety, you have to cope with your emotions, and then you naturally think about the positives, because what else are we here for? So there are some positives, I guess, and here are my fear and reflections. Here we go. All right. Change is inevitable. We all know that. But it doesn't matter how often that change happens, it is always, always, always inevitable. I moved back to India start of this year, and I'd never imagined how I would ever come back, acclimate to things here in India, how I would find myself a life over here, how much I'd earn, how I'd ever get my independence back. And it was very, very mentally exhausting for me. But I moved back, and my initial plan was to go back after 3 months. But that didn't sort of like pan out. And one thing led to another. I had to stay here the entire year. And so every month I was hoping, okay, maybe now, maybe now, maybe now. But every 3 months there was something new happening in my life, like a new change. And I was so not ready for the change. I hate change. I really hate it. And I know change is the only, what do you say, it's the only constant in life. But I just hate change. Like even now, it takes me a lot of time to adapt to change, to adapt to something new. I will eventually, but it'll take me some time, and then I have to be mentally prepared. Like I have to be told a month prior that, hey, listen, after a month this is gonna happen. So I'm mentally ready for it. If you throw something at me randomly, I get very agitated, and that's precisely what happened this year. Every 3 months, something new was taking place in my life, which I was not expecting, and that happened a very, I don't want to say a negative way. I don't want to be very negative right now, but it happened not the way I had planned, okay? I thought it's all gonna work out, and maybe I'm going back to India for a reason. Maybe there's someone waiting for me over there. There's a better job, there's better something. But it just didn't pan out for me the way I imagined in my head. And so I learned that change is inevitable. You will have to go through change, Yesha. You will have to. And no matter how often that happens, that is not in your control. Change will happen. Maybe change happens tomorrow, and then the next day you're again changing. Like there's another major life event happening, and you will just have to adapt to it, because this is adulthood. This is adulthood that no one prepared me for, or anyone for that matter. And I wish someone had told me back in, I guess, high school or even engineering college that, listen, life is really tough. Like it will keep changing, and you will have to be an adult. You can no longer cry to your parents and be like, why is this happening to me? Help me, do something. Your parents will no longer, come to your rescue. Like they're always there, but they won't come in a way that they would otherwise, like in school or college or wherever. That's not happening. You are 25, you're 26. You have to get a grip of your life, and you just have to keep moving. No matter how difficult, no matter how uncomfortable that change is, you have to adapt to the change. So change is inevitable no matter how often it happens. Stability is a myth, especially in your 20s. All year long, I was hoping that there would be a point where I'd feel more stable in my life because everything that was happening was just chaos, absolute chaos. And I spoke to my doctor, and she told me, Yesha, you have to stop being so rigid with your ideas of life. You are very young, you're just 25. And I was complaining to her that, doctor, I'm just done with these experiences. It was about my love life. And she was like, are you mad? She was literally laughing. She was like, you can't do that. You can't be like, I'm 25, I've experienced so much, now I'm done. I don't want any more experiences. She said, you're so young. You cannot be rigid about anything in life, be it your love life, your career, your finances, everything. You have to be very flexible because life will keep throwing things at you. And you never know, maybe this is just a rough year, it's not a rough life. You just have to move on with it. And you never know, maybe next year is going to be like the best of best. This year was just preparing you for the best that's about to come in the next year. And that gave me a new perspective. I did not take in her advice back then, but as I'm approaching year end, I feel like, yeah, maybe I should have been less rigid with my ideas of how life should be or how I want to live my life. And I do believe that in certain areas I've genuinely become very flexible, and I do believe that the more flexible I became, the more fun I started having in life, the more I started falling in love with life, falling in love with myself. And I think more like opportunities came my way. So I did learn that I can't be chasing stability just as yet. Yeah, be open, be flexible, because once you do that, life will really open doors for you. You'll have the entire world at your feet. Which brings me to my third point. The more you love yourself, the more abundance you attract. I watched a clip of Vidya Balan during an interview where she was asked, what is your relationship with money? And she said that I love money. And she went on to say that the more I started loving myself, the more money I attracted. And that is just like bang on. She's absolutely right. Because the more you you feel good about yourself just as you are, the more abundance you attract in every aspect of your life. For me especially, that was money, and it happened back in July. I had this experience. So I in the UK, you pay tax, okay? But if you've paid extra tax that you don't really owe the government after the end of the financial year, they'll evaluate if you've paid like extra tax, and they'll refund that extra bit to you. It will take a couple of months, but they do like refund it to you. And so the year that I was working in London, I ended up giving more tax because that's how my pay slip was, deducted. That's how the tax was deducted from my pay slip. So I got an email in July. So July I was about to fly to London for a summer trip. So I'm about to fly, and I think a month prior, I think in June, I received an email from HMRC that, hey, your tax return has been documented. And I logged into the portal, and I was like, okay, maybe it's just nothing, because the previous year I think I got only about 20 quid in refund. So it's like, doesn't make sense. Like, there's no point even checking. Like, it makes no sense. But I was like, fine, let's just try it out. I've logged in, and I kid you not, I was not expecting it. I was just trying to calculate like how will I save up for the trip. I mean, I had my parents who were also helping me, but I didn't want their help. So I was like, I just hope, like, how am I going to manage? Like, I want to be independent over there. I want to spend independently. I have a lot to shop from London. And so I was like, I hope that somehow some miracle sort of like takes place in my life and I get shitload of money. I kid you not, when I logged into HMRC, the amount that it showed, it was good enough, like more than good enough for me to enjoy that 1 week in London. And I was literally shocked. I had absolutely no clue that this would happen just at the right time. And I was on top of the world. I was like, I wouldn't have to ask dad for a single penny. I wouldn't have to ask mom for a single penny. And I felt just great. I felt like, wow, how's this even happening? Like, how's this happening? It's never happened to me. And then I realized, no, maybe I'm really enjoying myself. I'm having fun with life. I'm being more like chill. I'm being more focused with my career. And I think back then everything was going very smooth, like around June, July. And so, yeah, that HMRC email came at a very right time, about a month prior to the summer trip that I was planning. And it was just cakewalk. And it was, I'm telling you, it was good enough money for me to survive for that 1 week in London. And I felt good. I felt like, when people say, trust the universe, talk to the universe, manifest. And it just happened because I was only, not worrying, but it was always a thought lurking like, how am I going to manage? I hope that, I wouldn't have to ask mom and dad for money. I wouldn't have to depend on them. And it just so magically happened. And I felt really good about myself. I felt like, wow, I'm going good. Like I'm really, it's working. Like the manifestations are working. And the last takeaway from 2025 is a bit controversial, but I always believe this. Trust me, I always believe this. But when I moved back to India, my kind parents told me that, Yesha, please don't be, so antisocial. Talk to people, socialize. And even at work, my mom told me, make friends, make your colleagues your friends. I was like, okay, I never believed in the fact that your colleagues are your friends. I always knew that your colleagues are not your friends. I was very clear about it. But my mom was like, listen, maybe just try talking to people, try befriending them. And it's not like I was rude or anything, but I just didn't want them to invade my personal life, personal space. So my mom was like, no, but that's how maybe you meet new people, that's how you make new friends. So I was like, okay, maybe fine, let me just try this out. No, don't try it out. I'm telling you, this is the most bullshit advice anyone can ever give you. Your colleagues are not your friends. Maybe once they've, stopped working with you, or maybe they've stopped working at the company that you work at, you can be friends, sure, yeah. But while you're working there, absolutely not. Don't you dare make that mistake. Don't you ever freaking make that mistake. Your colleagues are not your friends. I don't know how um, I don't know how to even articulate, because it's coming from like the bottom of my heart, that rage. Your colleagues are not your friends. Do not. Your colleagues are your colleagues. You meet them, you work with them, you talk about work, and that is it. And even when you talk about work, make sure that you're not talking about anybody else, but just your work. Your work, that's it. Not what a third person is doing, or the fourth person is doing, or what the manager is doing. Nothing. What are you doing? And no complaints. Don't complain. No matter how shitty your job is, don't complain about your job to anyone in your workspace. Come home, talk to your friends, talk to your parents, talk to your siblings. Do not talk about your work to your colleagues. For heaven's sake, this is like, I feel like if I can just catch each and every one of you watching this video and I can literally reprimand you, your colleagues are not your friends. That's it. Period. I'm not elaborating on that. They're not your friends. These were my reflections of 2025. And again, to reiterate, I hope that 2026 brings a lot of prosperity, abundance, love, happiness, and peace. And I shall see you in the coming year with vlogs, I guess. I actually vlogged when I was in London in November, but I'm a noob at vlogging, turns out. Suddenly recorded very well, but lesson learned. In Jan, you will see a vlog from my end.